What companies deserve your hard-earned dollar? Which would you want to work for? How can you know if they share your values? Just ask us. Just Capital is a nonprofit that tracks who really means business in supporting workers, customers, communities, the environment, and shareholders. We measure progress, track success, and help them be better. When you see the Just Capital seal, you know what's real, because just business is better business. Visit justcapital.com to learn who makes your dollar count.
And good afternoon. We are doing it live right here in the 4 o'clock hour. Mottek On Money, 5 days a week for you, live on the air on 790 KABC, streaming live online worldwide at KABC.com, and your on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, KABC.com, Apple, iTunes, and all your favorite podcast platforms. Well, it's Super Tuesday, Election Day here in California and 15 other states. We'll have election night coverage for you right here on 790 KABC this evening. After the polls close at 7, John Phillips, Randy Wang, and yours truly will have the election results as they come in for the contest, including the California U.S. Senate race, the L.A. County DA's race, city council races in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, and cities throughout Southern California. It was not a Super Tuesday on Wall Street, though, with stocks pulling back in the triple digits. The Dow sliding 405 points, NASDAQ dropping 268, and the S&P 500 slipped 52. All the major averages coming down from the record highs achieved last week. Looks like the cryptos also cooled. Bitcoin coming down from record highs, right now at around 64,300. Ethereum at 3,578, and Doge at the moment at 15 cents. It's hard to believe it was 2 years ago when you went to the polls in Los Angeles for the mayoral election. Then appeared business and civic leader Rick Caruso was the outright winner on election night, but that was not the case, and he faced a runoff. And then in the general election on election night, Rick Caruso was leading. And then about a week or so later, Karen Bass was declared the winner. Your vote does matter. Get out there and vote, folks. Joining us live now, Rick Caruso. Rick, you're the winner in every possible way as far as I'm concerned and as far as the business community is concerned. Thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Oh, Frank, it's great to be here. Thank you very much. It's fun thinking about 2 years ago. That was an exciting time in my life, for sure.
Well, fantastic. And, of course, we were following everything every step of the way back then. And you've spoken out, of course, about importance of leadership here. And, of course, you've led by your successful example. And it's great that you're speaking out. And give us your thoughts about this important election here today.
You know, Frank, I think this is a really critically important election. Every election is important, but let me tell you why I think this is critically important. First is the district attorney's race. I mean, we have got to have a new district attorney, and it would be, in my opinion, an absolute travesty if George Gascon gets reelected. So making sure that people get out and vote. We continue to have rising crime in the city, in the county. We've got to have a district attorney that's actually enforcing the law, holding criminals accountable. Obviously, we always want to be fair in how we approach things. But in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of most others, the pendulum has swung too far. And the criminals seem to have a lot more freedom and rights than the victims do. And so there's a lot of good choices for district attorney. So please get out and vote, you know, for somebody other than George Gascon. Very clearly, we've got to change what's happening in our city and our county.
What's your reaction to the latest crime reports? Almost every single day, we see these outrageous videos in broad daylight. Somebody had a business owner trying to steal somebody's watch there on Sunset Boulevard. You probably saw that video and countless others at this point.
Well, I think the problem we have, Frank, very clearly is we haven't been enforcing the law. And so there's this perception in, you know, the greater Los Angeles area that you can get away with these crimes. And the fact of the matter is you can. We don't have a bail requirement. So even if people get arrested, they're immediately released. You just can't have a healthy, safe, livable city in that kind of scenario. And we have a district attorney that doesn't enforce the laws. But we continue to have property crimes spiking in Los Angeles. I mean, property crime in Los Angeles is up 24% since 2020. It's up another 3.5% year over year. And we shouldn't be living in this kind of situation. You know, I was just down for a friend's wedding that was in Brazil, and they have a terrible problem with property crimes to the point that the amount of people that now are driving in bulletproof cars because so many people are robbed as they're driving at gunpoint. Now, Certainly Los Angeles and this area isn't at that point. But you can lose control pretty quickly. And I think we've got to get serious about changing the trajectory of this city. And the way you're going to do it is by changing the leadership of the city. And that's why the district attorney's race is critically important.
On there live with Rick Caruso, we've seen streets taken over, we've seen stores taken over, and now entire buildings taken over with that eyesore in downtown Los Angeles. I know you've spoken out about that, the graffiti, so-called graffiti towers. What do you think should be done about that?
Well, here's another example. You know, the LA Times, which is, in my opinion, is just a shell of a decent newspaper. I'm not sure anybody takes it very seriously anymore. But the fact on the front page, you know, they had this question, you know, is it graffiti or is it art? It's a crime. And I was heading downtown for a lunch meeting today and driving by those towers. It's just sickening because it's this massive billboard that is telling everybody who is driving by or walking by that we have a city in decline. We have a city in decay. We have a city that apparently doesn't have consequences or rules. And the people that tagged it should be arrested. I frankly think they should be responsible for cleaning it up and cleaning up the absolute mess they made. But the leadership of the city, what bothers me, has not been clear in coming out and being very strong against it. You know, how can you tolerate stuff like this? And I feel bad for the landowners around it. I feel bad for everybody in Los Angeles because it's not who we are. We're a great city, and we need to act like a great city. So here again, you know, the tolerance for crime has a consequence, and what's predictable is preventable. And we certainly, easy to predict the consequences of not holding criminals accountable.
And we've heard from business owners like Angela Marsden practically in tears on this program, appealing to city council members and city leaders to do something about crime and homelessness. And these pleas appear to be falling on deaf ears.
Yeah, well, again, this is why voting is important today. Everybody has until 8 o'clock tonight to vote. And it looks like the turnout is low, and that's really a shame. Because it's one thing to complain and want a better city and a more livable city and a safer city and more business-friendly city. And the way you do that is actually getting out and voting. And, I mean, we saw it in my, you know, when I ran for mayor, the turnout was not as great as we wanted it to be and hoped it to be. And, again, that has consequences. So now's the time to really get out there and do it. I mean, you look in some of these council districts, you know, Ethan Weaver, I think, is a great candidate. He'll make a great council member. Will send an important message to the city. He's a moderate Democrat, a smart guy, very dedicated. You know, in the DA's race, I like Jeff Chermaninsky. I like him because he was in the U.S. Attorney's Office. I've spoken to his previous boss in the U.S. Attorney's Office, who is very impressed with his record in court of holding criminals accountable. And I think he can beat Gascon. It's really important at the end of the day that whoever comes in second, because I think George is going to end up in the general, whoever comes in second can actually win and beat George. Otherwise, it's not going to matter. And again, that's a really, really incredibly important race.
Well, thank you very much for taking the call here on this important election day. It's Super Tuesday here in California, as well as more than a dozen other states. Always appreciate your time here on this program, and hopefully get a chance to talk to you some more about business and the economy and what's happening at the Grove, Americana at Bryan, Pacific Palisades, and the list goes on. Rick Caruso, we wish you all the best, and thank you very much for coming to the line here this afternoon.
Frank, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rick Caruso, and your team there at CARUSO. Well, you heard it first here, folks. The Magnificent Seven group of tech companies that helped underpin the stock market rally for months did pull back today, as we've been saying, not so magnificent day, not a Super Tuesday on Wall Street. Taking a look, for example, at Apple down nearly 3%, Amazon shares down about 2%, and Microsoft also down about 3%. Google's parent company Also pulling back about 0.5%, and Meta Platforms, the Facebook parent company, down about 2%. Tesla shares dropped nearly 4%, and we saw NVIDIA ending slightly higher today. NVIDIA's been holding up pretty well, and in today's sell-off, we'll be having extended market coverage coming up later this hour. But recapping the action on Wall Street, the Dow down 405 points today, settling at 38,585. The S&P 500 down 52 at 5,078. And the Nasdaq slid 268 points at 15,939. The yield in the 10-year note, which impacts the fixed-rate mortgage rates out there, now at 4.27%. Taking a look at the cryptos, Bitcoin, which soared to record heights in the last day or so, pulling back a bit today. Right now, doing what cryptos do, quite volatile, up more than $2,400 at $64,351. Ethereum up double nickels now, $55 to $3,578, and Doge at 15 cents after hitting up around 20 cents earlier this week. Some of the retailers are coming in with earnings today, including Nordstrom. Shares of Nordstrom down after hours this afternoon after the department store chain's full-year forecast disappointed investors. According to MarketWatch, the company said it expected full-year same-store sales within a range down 1% to 2% compared to analyst estimates of about a 1.5% gain. Nordstrom shares down more than 9% here in after-hours trading. As MarketWatch notes, management during the company's earnings call said consumers were still cautious as they deal with inflation, higher interest rates, and the return of student loan payments. For its fourth quarter, Nordstrom reported net income of $134 million, or 82 cents a share, excluding a supply chain asset impairment and related charge. Looks like activewear, beauty products, and women's clothing had the strongest year-over-year growth in the fourth quarter, according to Nordstrom's view of things. So we did get that news today. It looks like we also heard from Target as well. Let's see if we can get the latest information on that one. Earlier, Target came in with earnings as well. And Target shares did pop more than 12% as that retailer boosted profits despite lackluster sales estimates. Target posting holiday quarter revenue and earnings that topped Wall Street analysts' expectations, but Target said, or Target said, depending on how you like to pronounce it, the company said it expects another year of weak sales. The retailer's shares closed about 12% higher as it showed progress in boosting profits and margins. Even so, Target's comparable sales declined for the third quarter in a row, and the key metric, which...
Hey, everybody. This is Dan Bespris, host of Fantasy NBA Today, a daily fantasy basketball podcast. We cover every box score from every game, every day. Plus bonus shows on buy low opportunities, players to stash, schedule analysis, and really anything you could need to smash your league into deliciously tiny pieces.
Catch the Fantasy NBA Today podcast, part of the Believe Network, on YouTube or wherever you listen.
Includes digital sales and takes out the impact of store openings, closures, and renovations, fell about 4.5% in the fourth quarter. According to CNBC, Target does not anticipate sales will bounce back quickly, and for the current quarter, Target says it expects comparable sales to drop between 3% and 5% and adjusted earnings per share to range from $1.70 to $2.10. Target said it expects full-year 2024 comparable sales to be flat up to 2% and adjusted earnings per share to range from $8.60 to $9.60. Taking a look at some of the other action today, of course, you've probably noticed gas prices have been on the rise lately. This has the price of oil has been floating close to $80 a barrel once again. Right now, up 7 cents at $78.22. Gold, which has been hitting record highs this week, pulling back a bit now, down about $7 at $2,135.20 an ounce. The Magnificent Seven stocks shedding $233 billion in market value. And by the way, with that hidden Tesla stock today, Jeff Bezos is back at number one as the wealthiest person in the world and blowing past Elon Musk because of Tesla stock losses recently. Coming up, we'll have further details on the action today on Wall Street and extended market coverage coming up here as well. Friends, people like you and me have our ear to the ground in all things business. We like to be informed and indeed well prepared. Now, as important as finance is, I want you to have a plan in case you're hit by someone not paying attention to the road. Thinking ahead serves us well. And even still, we can get caught off guard as people are so focused on their destination that they might not have a plan if they're in an accident that is not their fault. That's why I encourage you to put my friend Attorney Clark Fielding's number in your phone. That number is 833-88-SHARK. So if you're in an accident, you'll be ready with your strategy to make Clark Fielding your very first call. Fielding Law aims for the highest possible settlements, considering you might need long-term care, rehab, compensation for lost wages, and any ongoing physical or emotional pain. So if you're hurt in any kind of accident, call for a free consultation with Fielding Law. You can trust them. They're honest, respected, and your strategy in case you get into that unexpected accident. Motorcycle, truck, pedestrian, scooter, hit and run, boating, or bike accidents, the number to call 833-88-SHARK. That's 833-88-SHARK. Or go to clarkthesharklaw.com. 790 KBC welcomes Hermits to the Canyon in Montclair March 30th. Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com. Right now, caller 9 wins at 1-888-795-2222. You can get a pair of tickets to the show if you're caller 9. Tickets furnished by the Canyon, where music meets the soul. Call now. Caller 9 wins 1-888-795-2222. Mottek On Money continues here in 790 KBC. Losing day for the stock market, a not-so-super Tuesday for investors after that record run-up we saw last week. We've been down a couple of days now. The Dow down 405 points today, settling at 38,585. The S&P 500 down 52 at 5,078. And the NASDAQ sliding 268 points at 15,939. The yield in the 10-year note now at 4.27%. Of course, the cryptos have been on fire lately. Cryptomania has gripped the markets. A bit of a breather today, though, with Bitcoin back down to around 64,351. Yep, you heard me. If you haven't been following what's been happening lately, you've missed a pretty big rally. Right now, Bitcoin is higher by about $2,400 at 64,351. Ethereum up about 50 now at 3,578. And Doge at 15 cents. The crypto industry, big news is that Bitcoin broke its previous record for all-time high. But whether the coin actually broke that record and what the number to beat even was in the first place depends on who you ask. As Decrypt.co, our Jason Nelson, who appeared on this program yesterday, we discussed this at length. Decrypt, for example, reported the news this morning that the crypto exchange Coinbase showed a high price above $69,324 following numerous close calls since yesterday. Coinbase's previous all-time high was listed under the $69,000 mark for Bitcoin. A Bitcoin mining company telling Decrypt that he tracked Bitcoin's price today by using the CoinDesk Bitcoin Index, which leverages prices from multiple exchanges and weighs them with a proprietary algorithm. Now, according to XBX, the price to beat today was $68,991, which was reached back in November of 2021. And per the same source, Bitcoin briefly climbed to $69,209 today before moving below $61,000. Quite a move today on the downside for Bitcoin after that impressive record run-up, bouncing back from the crypto winter and even ice age that we saw in the last couple of years. But a victory is a victory nonetheless, and this one seemed so, right? So CoinGecko, another leading crypto price tracker, showed Bitcoin actually reached $69,044 way back in 2021. And today, according to CoinGecko's driven price algorithms across multiple tracking exchanges, the coin only climbed as high as $68,912 before pulling back substantially today. So depending on who you follow, on which platform, looks like indeed Bitcoin has hit a record high this week, but the exact amount is an open question. In the meantime, we do see Bitcoin right now hovering at about 64,000. It did move close to 61,000 earlier in the day. Taking a look at where things stand here right now, of course, the other major crypto assets have been making big moves on the upside. For example, Ethereum has seen quite a run-up as well. Right now, it's down about $51 at $3,577. Shiba Inu, I won't try to give you the fractional quote on that one, but it appears to be down about 10% here at the moment. That's the one that trades below 1 cent. Doge has seen quite a wild ride. Right now at 16 cents, it is down about 20% on the day. Bank, another one, which trades below 1 cent, is down 18% after an eye-popping run-up. Cardano is at 69 cents here at the moment, down about 10% on the day. And Cosmos is down about 4%, trading at $12.03. Algorand, another one, which has moved up a bit, pulling back today, down about 6% at 23 cents. We'll cover more on crypto and today's action in the markets coming up here in just a moment with Bryan Perry, investment expert, coming up here shortly. Mottek On Money continues here on 790 KBC. Good afternoon. We are doing it live right here in the 4 o'clock hour on 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com and your on-demand Mottek On Money podcast at kbc.com, Apple, iTunes, and all your favorite podcast platforms. It is Super Tuesday. Stay tuned for live election night coverage. I'll be joined by the one and only John Phillips and Randy Wang, who's coming up here at 5 o'clock for the 790 KBC News Blitz. But starting at 7, we'll begin our election night coverage. The polls, by the way, do close at 8 o'clock tonight. Rick Caruso absolutely right. We just spoke to Rick Caruso live on the air here. In the meantime, not a Super Tuesday for the financial markets. The stock market as well as cryptos pulling back. Some money coming off the table ahead of a big 2 days on Capitol Hill, in which we'll hear from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. He'll be giving his testimony. As investors are anxious to hear more about the Fed's plans to eventually pivot to rate cuts. Let's see what happens. He might have some comments also about the big run-up in cryptos. And so we did see the Dow down 405 points today, the S&P 500 down 52, NASDAQ giving back 268, and Bitcoin, which was up around 69,000, moved lower to about 61K, right now at about 64,000. Joining us live now, investment expert Bryan Perry, chief investment strategist and portfolio manager at Mint Asset Management, and also author of the 25% Cash Machine. Bryan, thanks for stepping up to the plate here on this down day. Take it from the top and give us your impression of today's market action.
Thank you, Frank. The business of shakeouts is actually great for defining market leadership. This is what we've been waiting for from really in the last month here, where it looks like everything was elevating and levitating, across the board, and now you've got this post-earnings season. A couple of stocks are breaking down within the Magnificent Seven. So you've got some profit taking here, which is basically at the expense of Apple, Alphabet, Google, Tesla, Adobe, Intel, Cisco, Booking.com as a source of funds. And whereas other names like NVIDIA and Supermicro Computer, which are the poster children of AI, actually closed higher today, after being sold down in the morning here. So the relative strength in those stocks is for real. As well as the whole, disruptive force of AI technology. It's coming across a number of industries here that are just getting started in major AI initiatives here in the insurance business and pensions and financials. And it's already, making its way into, we saw Amazon here release their bot robots here in the last week that they're starting to explore to, quote, come alongside human beings in terms of the stacking and packing of millions of packages a day. So this is all coming on here. And at the same time, there's a major breakdown going on in China, which is experiencing, very slow growth and almost negative growth at this point here, where they're exporting deflation, where their exports actually posted their first annual decline in 7 years, falling 4.6% last year. This is a big deal because that's a market where a lot of U.S. multinationals operate, such as Apple, which saw iPhone sales plunge, and Tesla saw their high-end EVs plunge. So there's something going on here where we've got a kind of a two-tier market right now where the U.S. is doing pretty well, growing at roughly 3% GDP, while other markets around the world are starting to really struggle. So basically keep your money here at home for the time being, and this is kind of where you're starting to see that. As you noted, Bitcoin soared to 67 and change before pulling back. There's over $2.5 trillion, Frank, now invested in cryptos around the world. That's just a phenomenal figure here. And all these altcoins and Bitcoin, Ethereum, they all made a big move higher here in the last week and a half, to where you even had the Doge coins of the world, which really there's really no utility value to this stuff. They made big money, and so speculation really entered that arena, and you saw that money, some of that come off, and we've had a pretty sharp pullback here in the last week. But again, on pullbacks, it's really the world of Bitcoin tends to still be the place of, if you're going to buy into this market, continue to look at that on dips. After the close, great news on CrowdStrike here.
Stacking Benjamins with Joe and his good friend OG not only has great financial insight, it's laid back with humor too.
The quiet luxury trend is out and loud budgeting is in. Are we tired of the pet names?
Yeah, because I'm loud and obnoxious, so this fits right in with me. I'm like, yes, finally budgeting for me.
I get to walk into a restaurant and go, I'm cheap as hell, and you're not getting a tip.
Live from Doug's Budget.
Find out more by searching the Stacking Benjamins podcast, wherever you listen.
One of the leading, if not the most watched and favored cybersecurity company here, came in, beat estimates, raised guidance, and really helped save that security sector after a big miss by Palo Alto Networks and a lower than expected guidance by Zscaler. So that stock traded to a new all-time high after the close, and it's really kind of what the market needed here because there is a separation process going on here. The wheat from the chaff in the tech sector is underway, and you still want to dance with the girl that brought you, all right? And so that, in from my standpoint, and that's the big cap tech on pullbacks here is really where you get this pause that refreshes, and you get a chance here to step in and look at some of the big names here that are still in very, very bullish uptrends, but they got a little ahead of themselves in their moving averages here, a little overbought, extended, and now we have this maybe a 2 or 3 day pullback here because we got the Fed coming in here on Wednesday, Thursday to talk to the House and the Senate, and Powell's going to give his state of the affairs, for the economy and monetary policy. You've got the State of the Union address on Thursday by President Biden, which I don't think most people really care. That's not going to be a market mover of any kind. And then Friday, you've got the employment data, which certainly could be a market mover. So you've got this caution, this yellow flag up here in front of all these events here, but you've also got $7.5 trillion on the sideline that missed out on a lot of this big move. So there's a big fiscal catalyst out there if the market does give another green light. And beyond that, we've got this the market's starting to broaden out here nicely here, including industrials and non-bank financials, materials, and certainly some of the small caps are starting to move higher here too. So I like the setup here, Frank, for we talked about maybe a late February, early March pullback here, but now we're coming into the end of the quarter, and this is when you're going to start to see the marking up of the stocks that are leaders. But people have a chance now to maybe pick up some of these big leadership names on pullbacks, and this is I think where people should be looking at today, and maybe hopefully another couple of days of a consolidation as an opportunity to get in.
On the air live with investment expert Bryan Perry at Mint Asset Management, and Bryan, briefly. Since we only have a few minutes left, I want to get your thoughts about this run-up in cryptos and the pullback today. For a while there, it seems things were going to the moon here, just that epic rally for Bitcoin and the other, every dog coin has its day, apparently, with these meme coins, Doge and Shiba Inu and all that. We've seen wild price predictions on where these things go from here. What are your thoughts about where things go here, especially Bitcoin? You've seen these astronomical predictions, and what are your thoughts about what we're seeing out there?
Okay, well, we've got the fork coming up here in May, where the production of Bitcoin will be cut in half from 13 coins every 10 minutes to 6.5. So now you have a supply issue here coming up, and you also have the fact that this 20-year bond auction here last week did not go well. So you have this $34 trillion debt that is driving some of this. I need to hedge against the possibility of a falling dollar sometime down the road. The DXY, which is the dollar index, is coming off of its high here recently, and I just think that people got to watch that carefully here because that's where you have some articles coming out here about how the long end of the curve, in order for the rest of the world to buy our debt, is going to be wanting higher yields here, and that's the part of the curve that the Fed does not control. So that drives what do I do outside of fiat currencies here, which are backed by mountains of debt. You look at Bitcoin and you look at gold. Gold really broke out here, Frank. A massive breakout this week in gold. Yeah. So here we are. We've got these two. You've got a technological hedge, and you've got a physical hedge, and they're both working. So I think Bitcoin can trade to new highs, which would be looking at maybe 80,000 thereabouts if this market continues to carry this momentum. And there's a lot of money that wants in that is still not in. the crypto world, and it's best to have maybe both some gold exposure and some Bitcoin exposure in the event that things start to go squirrely in the treasury market.
Gold chain as well as blockchain. We've been talking about a lot this week, and we just have about a minute left here, Brian. But any specific places where you are putting money now and/or taking it off the table?
Well, today, you had some big, some price action here, which really, during the course of the day when the market started to really, come unwound a bit, it was a good time to be picking up shares of Amazon and Microsoft, Salesforce, CRM, Palantir. And for an energy play out there, which is really it's just not pulling back, but it may not, is Diamondback, which bought Endeavor, which is the largest privately held energy company in the Permian Basin. It creates a juggernaut for that part of the world, and certainly for AI AI real estate out there. These data centers got to expand rapidly now to take on a lot more crunching of numbers and data here going forward. So Digital Realty, DLR, and Equinix, EQIX, are the two big honchos in the space, and their numbers are looking very, very bullish for this year. And they're not super cheap, so hopefully you get a pullback here in those. But for those that want to trade somewhere else in AI and be in the brick and mortar side, those are the two names to go to. Okay. Coming off, China. China is in a world of hurt. FXI is a short.
Brian, wish we had more time as always. You're terrific. Thank you very much for taking the call here. That is investment expert Brian Perry, Chief Investment Strategist and Portfolio Manager at mintassetmanagement.com, as well as the author of the 25% Cash Machine. Brian, thanks for taking the call today, and look forward to speaking with you again very soon. Mottek On Money continues here on 790 KABC. Good afternoon. Rough Super Tuesday for the stock market, and not so Super Tuesday for the financial markets today as money came off the table ahead of the Fed chairman's appearance on Capitol Hill tomorrow and the following day for his testimony on the economy and monetary policy. The Dow coming in for a closing loss today of 405 points, slipping for the second day in a row. The S&P 500 down 52, and the NASDAQ slid 268. All the major averages coming off the record highs achieved last week. And the cryptos cooled off after an epic run-up. Right now, Bitcoin at around 64,000. The title for the world's richest person also changing hands today based on volatile action among the tech stocks. Jeff Bezos, number one again. According to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, the Amazon CEO now worth $200 billion, edging out Elon Musk by $2 billion. To take the top spot now, Bezos has increased his wealth by about $23 billion over the past year alone, and he is now at the top of the list. Bezos has been battling both Elon Musk and the head of Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, Bernard Arnault, for the title for several months. Bernard Arnault's company is the one that runs brands like Fendi, Christian Dior, Tag Heuer, of course, Louis Vuitton, Moet, and Hennessy, while Elon Musk is the CEO of Tesla X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as SpaceX. Our extended market coverage continues now, and joining us live is Jared Dillian, founder of Jared Dillian Money, publisher of the Daily Dirt Nap, and author of the book Street Freak, Money and Madness at Lehman Brothers. Remember that? Jared, thanks for taking the call here, and give us your impressions of this latest market action here.
This is actually kind of what I was looking for. I focus on sentiment above anything else, and we've seen a couple of two prominent bears in the market not necessarily go bullish, but you've seen Nouriel Roubini just yesterday said that he was less worried about the markets, which I think is notable. This is Dr. Doom. And you saw that David Rosenberg issued a mea culpa to his newsletter subscribers, saying that he's been bearish and wrong about the stock markets this whole time. Also, I heard you talking about crypto. What's been interesting about this last leg of the crypto rally is that it's really the garbage stuff that has been rallying the most. It's been Dogecoin and Shiba Inu and derivatives of that sort of stuff. And it's what started out as a high-quality rally leading into the ETF launches has turned into a low-quality rally, and this market was due for a breather for sure.
What are your thoughts about crypto? On this program, we speak to the biggest fans as well as the harshest critics. Where do you weigh in on crypto?
I have owned crypto at various times. I don't at the moment. I'm not necessarily opposed to crypto. I mean, one of the interesting things about crypto is, I'm very familiar with the ETF launches. I know some of the people behind them. And I think it's good that we have managed to securitize crypto and make it so people can own it in their IRAs and 401ks and stuff like that. I think that's a good thing. But what I find interesting is if you were willing to do the work on it 3, 5, 7 years ago and open up a Coinbase account or something like that, you could have gotten in at a much better price than if you waited for the ETFs.
Just now as we were speaking, I got an alert on my phone here. Shiba Inu up 23.66% in the last 4 hours. We're watching these so-called dog coins, meme coins rallying, and it's hard to ignore these big percentage pops that people, of course, are benefiting from. It not only goes up, but it does go down. It's attracting a lot more interest now, given these dramatic moves, especially on the upside.
Yeah, I think, all of this speaks to just, massively bullish sentiment in the financial markets in general. And I think that if we end up in a bear market 2 or 3 months from now, we will definitely say that there were signs.
So Dr. Doom economist, Dr. Nouriel Roubini, who's also interacted with him over the years, it was quite significant what you just mentioned about his sentiment at this point. Are you a contrarian then when he thinks the market is going up? Does that mean it's going to come down?
I don't necessarily have anything against Roubini in particular, but what I do is I don't study fundamentals. I don't pick apart financial statements. I don't look at charts. I'm not a technical analyst. What I spend a lot of time doing is looking at indicators for sentiment, lots of times on Twitter or in the media for when people get excessively bullish or excessively bearish. And back in October, when the S&P was at 4150, you had an abundance of bearish sentiment. And now that the S&P got up to about 5100, everybody piled in. So.
All right, what about the Magnificent Seven or the Magnificent One, NVIDIA? Any thoughts about that hot sector right now?
The Magnificent Seven is kind of falling apart. I actually have a short on in Google. Google is down about 15% from the highs. Obviously, Tesla has fallen out of the Magnificent Seven. If you look at a long-term chart of Apple going back about 10 years, that seems to be breaking down. And you have Warren Buffett, which owns about $170 billion worth. So that could be a potential seller. Really, the only interesting stock left in the Magnificent Seven is NVIDIA, and it kind of reminds me of Cisco in the year 2000 when breadth narrowed more and more and more until Cisco was the only stock left standing, and then they had an earnings report, and they blew out earnings, and the stock was down the next day, and that was pretty much the end of the dot-com bubble.
Right. Cisco, of course, the big tech bellwether back in those days, and now NVIDIA leading the parade. So it looks like we're down to the Magnificent One.
Yeah, it's one of the things that people have been talking about over the last several weeks is how breadth has been so bad. And also, if you look at concentration in the stock market, if you look at charts of the top 10% of market cap in the market as a percentage of the entire market, it's only gotten to this level 2 other times in history where you've had this degree of concentration, one in 2000 and one in 1929.
Jared, we'll have to stop there. Thank you very much for taking the call here with our extended market coverage. That is Jared Dillian, founder of Jared Dillian Money, publisher of the Daily Dirt Nap, author of the book Street Freak, Money and Madness at Lehman Brothers. Thanks for joining us live here. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz and election coverage right here, 790 KBC.
Get an inside look at Hollywood with Michael Rosenbaum.
Let's get inside of my buddy, Kumail Nanjiani. When you talk about Eternals and it wasn't the response that you were hoping, how did that affect you?
Marvel thought that we'd be going on a wave of raves, and it wasn't true. The reviews were really bad.
And you were aware of it while you were on tour?
Yeah, I was too aware of it. And so very intentionally, I did start counseling. Emily says that I do have trauma from it.
Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, wherever you listen.